So what's going on? Today we will be going on with Splunk 2. Splunk 2 is, part of cyber defense pathway. And in the previous videos, we have tackled task 3 and task 4. We answered the questions. We also have seen that task 3 and task 4 revolve around ransomware, advanced persistent threats, and web investigation scenarios. In task 3, we will continue on with answering the questions. The scenario here is investigating a USB ransomware attack. So we will answer the questions and explain how we got the answers. So you can also read through the introduction here, so you get yourself familiar with the concepts and some hints to help you answer the questions. But we will skip right to the questions part. All right, so as I said earlier, this is ransomware, USB ransomware attack. And a Mac OS machine has been infected with a ransomware which has been transferred through a USB flash disk. So technically, we will be investigating the scenario, extracting artifacts about the USB and the malware. The first question is Mallory's critical PowerPoint presentation on her MacBook gets encrypted by ransomware. On August 18, what is the name of this file after it was encrypted? So we have to find out the name of the file, the PowerPoint presentation, after it was encrypted. And we have to consider that we're investigating a Mac OS machine. So let's switch here and keep index.sv2 as the source of the dataset. And we will replace here. So we're looking for Mallory. So we take the name here. Why we are searching with Mallory here? Because we're assuming that the MacBook bears her name. So basically, there's a good chance that we would find the name of the device using the name of the girl. So basically here, date, all time. So we got around we got around 11,334 events. Definitely not the results we want to handle. Of course, that's why we will narrow this down. So basically we got source types. We got also host. So we will replace host with the Mallory Air13, which is the host or the device name of Mallory. We remove Mallory from the search. Search one more time. All right, so we select the source type. Let's see what we have got here. So 89% of the hits are on collected logs. So you don't need, to answer this question, you don't need to select the source type. So we're given here in the question a PowerPoint presentation. So we can use the PowerPoint extension to narrow the search down. So what we can do here, we can type dots, or let me grab it from my search, better, so, and quicker. So we have PPT or PPTX. So we're gonna search through the logs, okay, where the host is equal to the Mac OS book of Mallory, and we'll also look for events where PPT or PPTX extensions are involved. Search. Okay, search. So we got 7 events, which is quite good to sift through. We see here one event and we see a file name or PowerPoint file name called Frotly Marketing Campaign Q317, which indicates actually the actual answer. So that's how we got the first answer for the first question. So we got the PowerPoint file name that was encrypted. Now what? There's a Games of Thrones movie file that was encrypted as well. What season and episode is it? So also there is a movie file that has also been encrypted. We have to find out the season and the episode, given that the season and the episode are written in the file name. So for that, we will use this query. I'm going to explain why. So looking at, before typing the query in, let me show you here. Okay, so as you can see, in the first answer, we saw that the PowerPoint file name before the encryption was Frotly Marketing Campaign, etc. Now, as you can see, after the encryption, the file name became Frotly Marketing Campaign Q317 pptx.crypt _, which means that the malware is using crypt as an extension to encrypt the files. In order to find out other encrypted files on the system, we have to use the extension in the search query, and that's how we build a query such as this one. So we say the host is equal to the MacBook OS under the investigation, and we put star.crypt to display the events, all of the events that contains or highlights files where with the extension .crypt. We click on search. So we got around 194 events. And as you can see, we got events from different sources. So in order to make this search more meaningful and easy to sift through, we will have to use the source type. We have PS, we have OS query results. We will not use OS query results to answer the question. We will use PS and see what we can get after highlighting this source type. Okay, let's look here. We can also exclude PDF from the search because we don't want PDF files. We only want files, movie files. So what we can do here, let me go back, see if I have this query here. I don't have it. So what I can do here, I can take the crypt and then type not PDF. So, as you can see in the first two events, we got a file. The extension was MKV, but after the encryption, it was turned into crypt, and the file name contains string for season and episode. So this is the video file. Kevin Largerfield used a USB drive to move. Now here we get into the scenario of how all of that stuff happened in the first place. So basically, a USB drive has been plugged in the Mac OS, and after the plug has happened, or after they plugged the USB drive, and malware was executed. So you have to find out the brand of the USB drive. To find out the brand of the USB drive, we have two options. We can either look through the registry logs, and for this to happen, we need to look through Win event logs. to find out what was the brand of the USB. But for the sake of the scenario, this is not the intended way to find the brand of the USB drive. We have to find that relatively or with a way that is related to the scenario. The scenario is ransomware infection, and the ransomware has been transferred to the machine with a USB drive. So we have first to find what was the ransomware, what was the malware, and then link that or use that as a piggyback to find the USB brand. So let's first try to find out the malware, how it was executed, what is the file of the malware, which path, from which path it has been executed, and then we try to use the time as a tool to go back in time to find out what was the USB brand of the USB flash drive. So what we will do here, we will just cancel this part and replace with host equal cute kitten, which is the device name. Now, if you ask me how you got cute kitten, it's written clearly, as you can see. Malware onto cute kitten. Malware is personal MacBook. So we got 67,920 events. Among the source types, we see OS query results and OS query info. OS query results, if you have watched the room that I did on OS query, you will quickly remember that OS query can be used to log malware events. So if we narrow the search down to OS query results as a source type, and then we will use a path, users, and the username. But before jumping into this, I'm going to explain how we got into this. So again, we got around 6,000 events. Not bad, probably better than 67,000. But of course, we have to narrow this down more. As you can see in the columns path, so among the top 10 values, we see a path to library, right? And before the library, we see the name or the username on the device. So if you click on that, we got 36 events, right? But 36 events is still relatively high number to sift through. So what we have to do here, we have to narrow this down more. Now, given that we got the username on the device, we can construct a new query, okay, to find out all of the events that include the username on the device, regardless of the source type. So I will remove the source type here, everything, and get back and then use the username or the path as a keyword. So we use double spacing for the escape as an escape character, and this formula here is the formula used in OS query logs. So if you watch the OS query room, you will see that the logs of OS query or the events are when it contains path names, the path names are under this formula. So we search to see what are all of the source types or what the events that include the username of the MacBook in the events. So as you can see, we got around 300 events. Clicking on column path, we see the top values of the user path. Okay. Now, next, if you click on source type, the source type is always query results, right? If you click on this to add it to the search, again, we got around 300 events, the same number, because the previously executed query retrieved the OS results or OS query results events. So when we added this, the number didn't differ. That's why. So let's take a look. Let's take an example from here. If we click on Show as Raw Text, we see here the user path. Again, we see the user path plus, and here we have library. So you have to narrow this down more. What we're going to do here, we can add this target path, but how do we got this in the first place? So if you expand the 21 more fields, if you scroll down, you will see a field that is named under columns target path. Click on that to add it to the interesting fields. Scroll up, selected fields, click on that. You see the target path was users, the name of the username, downloads important HR info for Mac. I don't know what kind of name is this. Okay, click on that. You will see we have now 5 events. Now we selected this path because it is the path where the malware has been dropped. So we have got 5 events. If we select the first one, click on Show as Raw Text, we see a file, right, called start with important HR info, and there is an MD5 hash. Given that we're investigating for malware, we can use this hash and look it up in VirusTotal. So going to VirusTotal, I looked up the hash, and I saw here it was flagged as malware or backdoor. Click on the details, we see the MD5 hash, SHA1, SHA256, all of the details about the malware. Okay, now we've found out what was the name of the malware, where was the infection path. We have now to find out the USB brand, how we can link them together, how we can correlate these two aspects together. So this is the malware. The malware has been transferred when USB was plugged. So technically, there was a gap in time between the execution of the malware and the plugging of the USB drive. Of course, most definitely, the plugging of the USB drive was before the malware execution. So we have to search for events right exactly before that event. So we click on the date and time here, and we see display events before or after this event by specific number of seconds. I would choose 60 seconds as a period before and after. And of course, we will remove the query here and select USB as a keyword. Going back, typing 60, apply. So we've got around 5 events. Let's take a look at the events. The first one, show as raw text. All right, let's see here. USB port, vendor, there is no vendor information. Let's skip that to the second one. So, these are some information about a removable drive. We have the vendor ID. We've got also the model ID. Let's make sure that this is the USB device that has been plugged, because sometimes you plug more than one USB drive to extract your files. Clicking here, we see also the same information, not this one. So the rest of the events are or do not display the removable drive information. So we can see here the information, how we can extract the model number. So what you have to do is to take the vendor ID and take the media or the model ID. Now going back to my browser, there is a website called Device Hunt. You put or plug in the vendor ID, plug in the device ID from the logs, and you will find that the vendor details Alcor Microcorp. And that's how we found the answer. What programming language is at least part of the malware from the question above written. Now we got to find out information about the malware that infected the machine. Since we use VirusTotal to hunt the malware, we see here details about the malware, and we see also the programming language. File type, Perl. Next, when was this malware first seen in the wild? Again, we get the answer by looking at the details tab. We see first seen in the wild and the date of the occurrence, or the first occurrence of the malware. The malware infecting Qt uses dynamic DNS destinations to communicate with two CNC servers shortly after installation, which is quite common behavior among malwares. After the malware is executed, it communicates with CNC server to retrieve the commands in order to execute these commands on the infected host. What is the fully qualified domain name of the first alphabetically ordered of these destinations? So if you go to hybrid analysis and look up the hash, you will find out analysis details about the malware, and you see here in the general section, contact domains details. We see two domain names. The two domain names are used for the communication with the CNC server. So the first one is this, and the second one is this one. So now we have solved the third mystery of this challenge, which is investigating ransomware attack or USB ransomware attacks. I hope you found this helpful, and in the next video we will tackle down the last task of this amazingly laid down room Splunk. Okay then, see you in the next video.